Hi, I'm Fred Kowal, President of United University Professions. I'd like to thank Gwen Kay for inviting me to be a part of the fall plenary of the University Faculty Senate. I hope you all are enjoying your time in Binghamton and having productive meetings. Unfortunately, my schedule being as it is, and actually for that matter, I know Gwen's schedule has been busy as well, it has made it impossible for me to join you in person. But I appreciate the fact that Gwen has offered me this opportunity to have a brief message to all of you concerning issues that I believe are of importance and interest to all of you. As you know, a couple months ago, all of us who are part of UUP took a vote on a contract, and the turnout was incredible. We set records in terms of how many folks turned in ballots, close to 15,000 of our, roughly speaking, 33,000 members. Out of that total, 98% voted yes. There was a lot of support expressed in this vote. In fact, those are both records. We've never had that many members of UUP vote in a contract, and never before have that many voted yes. So we believe there is strong support for what was negotiated, but now we are entering what I believe to be an even more important series of steps that need to be taken to carry out, to implement the contract. Implementation of a contract involves making sure that our complex contract really rolls out the way it must to ensure we have all the protections we've negotiated and all the benefits. But there's something else about implementing a contract that all of us must understand. It gives us an opportunity at times to expand what we've negotiated, because there are times in the negotiation process where both sides believe it is imperative to leave some things a little vague, a little uncertain, to be worked out during implementation. Because at the end of the day, really, both sides want what is best for our university, our students, and each other. I believe that to be the case, and this time around, in two particular areas, I think that's going to play out. At least I hope it does. First, on one issue that I know those of us who represent the hospitals will want to know about, has to do with hospital scheduling. Now, that was a topic that was on the table. It was a real bone of contention at the table up to the very last couple weeks of negotiating. One of the main reasons we stayed out as long as we did was because the state, but specifically SUNY, wanted full control over scheduling of hospital employees represented by UUP. All that would be granted is 30 days notice, and shifts could change, the lengths of shifts, regardless of seniority and not necessarily with shift differential pay. We considered that to be unacceptable. Because both sides really had dug in their heels on this, the way we ultimately reached a decision or a settlement was to take that one issue and not allow it to hold up the settlement of our contract. However, by December 31st, negotiations between the State of New York and United University Professions will need to be concluded on the issue of hospital scheduling. We are about to begin executive level negotiations on that issue. And on the UUP side, we will be drawing from our chapter leaders of our hospitals so that we protect the interests of our members as we go into these negotiations. The second issue has to do with negotiations that took place around money supplementary to the 2% base increases that we got. Specifically, what I'm talking about is what's going to happen in the 4 years that we roll out now on discretionary salary increases and compression money. As you know, for those of us who have been around for a while, DSI is pretty straightforward. That's money that goes to the campuses. Campus administration has the discretion to distribute that to membership as they see fit. Different campuses do it in different ways. And we recommend to our chapter leaders that they take up this topic in chapter level labor management discussions. Our preference is that the money be distributed as widely as possible. But again, that's administration's ultimate determination as to who gets that money. This time around, things were a little different than what happened historically. Typically, 1% of the total salary pool across SUNY would be set aside for DSI in each year of a contract. This year we got it for 4 out of the 6 years, all 4 years going forward. But what the state and UUP agreed to do is to take half of that money and use it for DSI, but the other half of the money would go to address long-standing compression and inversion and inequity issues within our bargaining unit. We have been aware for years that compression, the squeezing of salaries between those of us who have been around for a little while and those who have come in more recently, that issue of compression has gotten worse and worse and needed to be addressed. It's why we proposed a variety of different ways of getting at this issue in this round, but this was the means that the state felt they could live with and we believed we could live with as well. Here's the way it is supposed to work. 1/2 of 1% of the total pool of money available in our contract in the last 4 years of the agreement will be used to address compression issues across SUNY. How will that be done? In the language in the appendix to the contract, a letter that I signed and Mike Valforti for the Governor's Office of Employee Relations. We signed this letter. We are both committed to negotiating at the executive level a process which will then be implemented at every single campus of SUNY that we represent. In that process, once a framework is developed, every campus will then perform an analysis of what's happening at their campus, who is being impacted by compression, and then secondly, how the money will be distributed. Right now, there have only been a couple of executive level meetings on this topic. That has included officers of United University Professions, staff members who were involved in negotiations, the head of our research area at UUP, and representatives from SUNY and the Governor's Office of Employee Relations. What we are looking at is how this issue has been addressed at other university systems across the country, what the literature shows in terms of how these issues can be addressed. We are working to develop a framework, but it's very early in the process. We anticipate the necessity for us to reach out to chapter leadership and to those who represent different segments of our membership. For instance, residents at our hospitals, physicians at our hospitals, adjunct faculty, professionals, what we are seeing in the literature, what we have seen happen across the United States where this issue has been addressed, and at a couple of the campuses in SUNY where it's been addressed, is that the issue in many respects has been easier to analyze and address among academics, among professionals. For a variety of reasons, it's been much more challenging. And so we are going to seek out those in these various constituencies to get some feedback in terms of how best to approach the issue. But having said that, the process is to be negotiated and framed out at the executive level. The responsibility lies ultimately with me as president of UUP to sign off on the framework along with the state side that we jointly agree is the process that campuses will follow. There may be some wiggle room for campuses, but that will be determined as to how much of that wiggle room there is. That will be determined through the course of these negotiations. That means, of course, as I've said, we intend to reach out to get some input from different sectors in our membership. We are going to be as transparent and open as possible once a framework has been worked out so that chapters know how we're going to be approaching this, how campuses are going to be approaching this, and then to analyze how campuses do in addressing compression. Because we're going to have 4 years of this process. We need to know how successfully it whirls out at different departments and campuses. And then how to go back, should we need to go back to the state and say there needs to be adjustments at various steps along the way. It's a complex process. We haven't done it before. SUNY hasn't done it before. UUP hasn't done it before. We're in uncharted space. But the intention is to come up with a framework that, based on the research and based on field work that has already taken place within SUNY and elsewhere, we deem to be the best starting point for addressing compression. The money in this contract will not solve all compression issues, but it will be a start. We look forward to working with all of the membership of UUP to ensure that we all get as much of that money as possible. It's why we negotiated in the first place to get this money. We have worked a long time to address the issue of compression. We are hopeful that this will start us down the road of solving this immense problem within our membership and within our university system. In closing, once again, I want to thank you all, for those of you especially who have chosen to stay with us in UUP. It is imperative that we stay united. There are forces out there that want to weaken us. This is not the time to be weak. We face a hostile political environment. We face difficult economic times going forward. We need all of you to be united in the interests that we serve together, and that is the work of our students, the work of our university. And remember, I want to close with this. In just a few short days, we're going to be voting in an election, one of the most important elections in our nation's history. I urge you to vote, and vote as if your future depends on it, because it does. If you have any questions or any concerns, there will be an open session for questions. Gwen has told me that will take place. But in addition, you can call our 1-800-342-4206 number anytime. And also go to uupinfo.org. There you will find information on when the money in the first stages of our contract will be rolling out. October 31st is the $600 bonus. Other monies will be rolling out in November and December. So with that, I would like to close. And again, thank you for the work that you do as members of the University Faculty Senate, but most importantly, the work that you do on behalf of our students, our university, and our state. Thanks very much.